everyone. It's Professor Hall, and I want to go over with you a little bit of information about the Lit-Crit literary criticism quiz and test that you're going to be taking for this course. In English 1B, you will be moving beyond the simple summary of a piece of literature. You'll be moving beyond the idea of simply what is the main idea of the story. Now, in this accelerated class, you're going to be moving up into the realm of why things happen in this particular piece of literature. One of the next steps up the ladder is to analyze causes and effects. Most of you read and studied and watched the film of To Kill a Mockingbird when you were in high school. If you recall, in that particular story, Boo Radley withdrew to the confines of his house and did not come out and did not socialize with town members. And the effect of that was that people made up stories about him. They didn't understand anything about who he was, and so they built up a big story about who Boo Radley was based on their own ignorance. That's an example of cause and effect. You can apply that to anything you read or any film that you watch or any other piece of fiction that you want to consider. Making predictions includes considering that these characters actually lived and breathed. And it wasn't a fictional story, it's an actual story about people who live and breathe. What, for example, would be the outcome for Huckleberry Finn? What would happen, in your opinion, based on the events of the story after the story was over? So that's kind of one of those ideas of making predictions. Drawing conclusions about what that particular piece of fiction says about mankind, comparing and contrasting that style with other styles, and evaluating the piece of literature based on a number of variables. Let's look at what some of those variables for evaluation might be. To carry on with this discussion, I've gone over to the course assignments, and I'm looking at the folder that contains the course study elements for the literary criticism. Let's look in there together. Here's the PDF that goes into a little bit about that evaluation process. Let's look at this together. As you can see, I've written some information about that particular aspect and given you some links for resources for writing. And then let's look at the different ways that we might evaluate it. We might take a look at the person, Tennessee Williams, where he's from, why he wrote what he wrote, and so forth. That's one way to analyze a piece of literature, isn't it? Another is Marxist criticism, and looking at the basics of Karl Marx and applying that to the evaluation of that story, all of which answers the question, why do the people in the story do what they do? There's mythological, analytical, and archetypal criticism, and this explains what that evaluation method is. And so goes that PDF and explains how you can understand what analysis actually is. After you've studied all of those materials, then you're going to go back to this folder, which shows you what the requirements are for the actual quiz that you'll be taking. For the quiz, you're going to study using online resources, traditional, feminist, mythology, psychoanalytic, and Marxist criticism. You're going to use your own words after you've studied this information, and you are going to explain what those mean. You'll create a Word document, you'll save that to your desktop, and then when you've completely done the quiz and proofread everything, then you're going to go back to the Literary Criticism tab, and you will submit that tab here by clicking on the words Submit Here. So you see, when you read or watch a film or study a screenplay or a stage play or a piece of poetry or puppetry or any of the other forms of literature, There is a first stage which is called summarize and main idea, but beyond that is a whole world of understanding and comprehension that makes the study of literature so much more enjoyable and rewarding.